From the creators of Medicare Made Simple, this is the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger. In addition to Medicare, there are many pieces to the modern retirement puzzle. This show talks about those pieces of retirement and the tools used to help the retired and soon to be retired toward their lifetime goals. The Academy is on the air. This is the Retirement Focus Academy.
Welcome to the Retirement Focus Academy, powered by Geiger Investments. I'm Mark Elliott, Kevin Geiger, of course, with the Retirement Focus Academy and Geiger Investments. You can always go to the website, retirementfocusacademy.com. And, you know, when you think about the Retirement Focus Academy, and Kevin, you've had some great success, really, where people are checking it out. What is this Retirement Focus Academy all about? Maybe let's touch on that a little bit, because you've got some things coming up. Coming up on Tuesday, January 12th, you have a virtual, conference, you could say, virtual chat with people about retirement basics. The following Tuesday, January 19th, you have one on inspiring women, all through the Retirement Focus Academy website. Tell us about it.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, we've been so busy now just designing and creating tons of workshops. We're actually at 14 right now, which is amazing. But the biggest one we like to do right off the bat is retirement basics. And so since we've been doing the show for the last couple of weeks or so now, going into the new year and so on, we've gotten so much traction, because I think what you're seeing out there is people want to be educated. They want to learn about retirement. They don't want to be sold to. They want to learn as much as they can, and from there they can make the decision if they want to work with someone that's a professional or they want to go on their own. And that's just kind of how we design these classes, is just to cover every topic possible. And so for anyone that's just not sure about something, we've had people ask us, hey, could you maybe put a class on regarding something about women? And so we've been designing a lot of, only women classes, or we're talking about certain things around Social Security and so on. And so it's exciting to kind of create this non-for-profit Retirement Focus Academy strictly for the point to just do our part and, educate the people that are out there and give them the information they need. So it's been an exciting start to the year, and I'm excited to keep going through 2021.
Yeah, so as Kevin said, it's non-for-profit Retirement Focus Academy. They're not charging you anything for this. You do need to sign up, though, and you can do so on the website, Retirement Focus Academy. Again, Tuesday, January 12th is the virtual chat about retirement basics. Then the following Tuesday, January 19th, is inspiring women, and there's no cost for you. It's about education, so you understand a little bit more about whichever topic they are talking about on the retirementfocusacademy.com. Kevin, all right, we're now a few, about 10, 11 days now into January. It's a brand new year. And I think every year, and probably every 4 years, especially if you have a change at the top in the White House and the Congress, there's a lot of moving parts here. What are some of the challenges you see retirees facing in this upcoming 2021?
Well, I think the biggest piece to the puzzle has been the low interest rate environment. We've been struggling since 2008 to get these interest rates to kind of move their way up, and they were starting to just a little bit until this pandemic kind of kicked in, and now we have this low interest rate market that we're kind of in right now. So for people that are retirees, the safest bet is always going into bonds, CDs, things of that sort. But now they've been taking too much risk in their portfolio. I would say some of the stuff I've seen out there, a lot of retirees, about 80% of them, I've seen, about 8 out of 10, are so heavily invested into the stock market that they're taking so much risk in their portfolios, which is scary because they just don't know any better. And again, it always comes down to education, which is why we do this, is to teach people to say there are options out there that can eliminate that interest rate risk issue. At the same time, not putting all your eggs in one basket into the stock market and things like that. Because let's face it, we don't know what this year is going to bring going forward with the stock market and so on. I think last year was a good example how quickly something could change. I always kind of refer to it as the tremor before the big one in California, right? And so this is the things that people have to be concerned about. So if you're in retirement or nearing retirement, you've got to start taking some risk off the table, and there's options for that. But by signing up for our classes and kind of getting educated to see what these things are will be very helpful for them. And then the last thing I would say is health, right? That this is a big concern going into the new year. We've been dealing with COVID and everything else, and it seems like it's just never ending, even with the vaccines kind of going out, and people are concerned about that, and so they're staying in more. But, I think the biggest thing for anyone, for health-wise, is you got to get out there and start walking around. You got to start exercising. You got to stay healthy, because this is a great opportunity to start the year, start it off fresh, start maybe a diet, do whatever you're going to do to be healthy going into 2021, because without your health, nothing else matters. So I think those are a couple things that people need to be thinking about going into the new year here.
So again, it's retirementfocusacademy.com. You can sign up for the January 12th virtual meeting, the Retirement Basics, the following Tuesday, January 19th, Inspiring Women. There's no cost. retirementfocusacademy.com. If you have questions or concerns, you want to ask the team about whatever's on your mind, 843-790-9293. There's no cost for this phone call either. 843-790-9293. I'm Mark Elliott, Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments, and of course the Retirement Focus Academy. Glad you're with us today for the program. We're talking about retirement really is about being efficient. Well, one of the challenges, Kevin, I think there's no question, is where we get our information from is really important. Right? If you're a big Republican, Fox is probably your network. If you're a Democrat, it's probably CNN, which is kind of crazy about our media that they're kind of biased. But you know that after a while. So where you're getting your information, if you talk to somebody about, say, life insurance and annuities, and Geiger Investments works in the insurance world and the investment world, but if you're talking with somebody just about, say, the investments, but you're talking to an insurance person, they're going to say, well, that's not the way to go. You need to have more safe and protected monies. Then you talk to somebody in the Wall Street world, the brokerage area, and you're talking about annuities or life insurance. Well, no, those are terrible. You can't get any growth there. I mean, it depends on whom you're getting your message from. So one of the things I always thought would be kind of fun in this program today is talking about, in your time doing this financial world that you live in, because you do this day in and day out. Most of us don't. What are some of the misconceptions that people have? And maybe you can clear them up and say, well, that misconception is wrong because of this or what have you. But I know there's a lot of misconceptions. I know one, the old theory that, hey, when I get into retirement, taxes will be lower. That one may not exactly be right.
Yeah, no, that's a great one right there, right off the bat, right? They always think, well, if I'm in retirement, my income's lower, my taxes are going to be lower. But here's the fact. We have a deficit that's growing. Obviously, these stimulus bills and everything else we've done through this pandemic has now pushed this new deficit of our country so high that something's got to give. And I think people kind of run with this idea that we're going to keep getting tax breaks, everything's going to be wonderful and great, but there's going to be a day when that's going to be a problem. And so if you're in retirement right now, you need to start learning how to be tax efficient. And there's a lot of different ways of going about that, so you can try to plan ahead, right? Because maybe right now we're okay, but in the next 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, who knows? Something's going to change. So you've got to be doing the right things so you can start lowering your tax brackets as best as you can in retirement. That, of course, one of the big ones is, right, I hear this all the time. I sit down with a couple, and the first thing I'm saying, well, we got to make sure that your money outlasts you. And usually it's a husband across the table that says, well, I'm probably going to die before 90, or I'm going to die before 85 and stuff like that. But here's the reality to this. If you're a 65-year-old male right now, 25% of you are going to live past the age 93. If you're a woman at 65 right now, the chances are you're going to move even past 96, right? That's a staggering number. I was just looking at these numbers that were listed online recently and seen at multiple sites. I mean, the fact of the matter is we're living longer. The way the medical world's working and everything else that's out there, you've got to make sure that you're planning. And I tell people, plan for the idea you're going to live past 100. I don't care if you think you're not going to, you've got to put that planning in place and make sure that your assets that you've saved up are going to last beyond those days. And then another one is, because we've done a lot of stuff with Medicare during the open enrollment stuff, is I get a lot of calls thinking that their original Medicare, your Part A and Part B, is going to cover all your health costs. But here's the downside to that. And a lot of the calls we got over the time of open enrollment is people don't realize is you still have a 20% co-insurance. You're still liable for 20% of the bill. So if you have a lot of health issues and things like that, you're going to be subject to 20%. But there's other, supplement policies. There's Medicare Advantage plans that can help cover a lot more of those costs. So, great opportunity right now if you have Medicare right now, and maybe you're in a Medicare Advantage plan right now, it's a great opportunity still right now to the end of March to look at maybe adjusting that plan, making a switch to maybe something that might be better out there. If you were procrastinating and didn't look at your changes to your plan, here's a great opportunity to kind of make those kind of changes. And then, of course, the biggest thing that I come across quite a bit, and a misconception is, well, I'm very conservative in my portfolio. I've got a lot of bonds and CDs, I'm playing it safe, Kevin. And I kind of explained to him, I go, here's the problem. CDs are paying, 1% or something today? If you're not keeping up with the inflation, which is, let's just say on average 3%, if you're not keeping up with inflation, every year your money's worth 2% less each year. So your buying power is worth 2% less every year that you're just letting it just sit in these types of accounts. And if you own bonds, misconception, if the bond rates go up and you own a coupon at 1% and it goes up to 1.5%, you think you've made some money. It's actually the complete opposite. It's a reverse. You want interest rates to go down, but we're in a low interest rate environment, so let's face it, I don't think they're going to get much lower for it to really benefit you. So you've got to understand there's other opportunities that you could be looking at and different directions with your investment strategies that can make a big difference. So those are a lot of the kind of misconceptions we've seen out there that I think it's important for people to really grasp and get a good understanding of before they start making mistakes.
Yeah, and Kevin brought up Medicare. And, of course, if you want to go to the website for that, carolinamedicare.com, you certainly can, and reach out to the team if you have questions, because you do have that window through March 31st to be able to make a change with Medicare, carolinamedicare.com. And, I do think it's always interesting. Longevity is one of the overlooked areas. Most people are going to live longer than they expect that they're going to live. And obviously that's one plan. Hey, Kevin, nobody in my family's ever lived past 80, so I'm going to plan on 82. Well, what happens if you hit 83, let alone 85 and 90? So longevity is one of those things that we kind of, underestimate would be a way to put it that way. But you mentioned bonds, and there, there's so many worlds. There's the banking world, which doesn't pay you much right now, but that's where we have our checking and savings accounts and so forth. You go to the insurance world, the world of annuities and life insurance, and those tools, I think, are much different than they were 10, 15 years ago, for sure. Then you have the stocks, bonds, ETFs, and all that world. And if we don't really understand, I think a lot of times people get caught up in, I need all my money safe and protected. I'm going the insurance route and the banking route. No, I need a lot of growth, so I'm just going all in on the investment world. And if we just think of retirement as having one tool, it'd be like living the rest of your time in retirement on just Social Security. That's challenging if we just have one tool in our retirement tool belt, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the old saying, and we always have this conversation with clients. We say, hey, if you got a nail in your couch that's just sticking out, what are you going to use? Are you going to use a hammer? Are you going to use a screwdriver to tap it in? You're going to use maybe a little piece of wood to tap it in? Sure, they all would work. One tool might work better than other, but the fact of the matter is they can all get the job done, but you got to make sure you're using the right tool for the right job, right? And so that's very important for people to understand. And I all too often, we see people take so much risk putting all their money in the market, and they say, well, that's my retirement plan, and that's just the way I'm going to go about it, because it's done so well in my 401k for the last 10, 12 years. What's the difference? I've made money, and this is the way it's always going to be. And if last spring didn't give anyone a red alert, if you want to call it, on how they're investing in their retirement, this is a great opportunity to kind of take those winnings off the table that you've actually made back up and done well up to this point, and make sure that you're positioning things properly and diversifying your portfolio. That doesn't just mean buying 4 different mutual funds and say, I'm diversified. You've got to look at every investment options that are out there and do the right things. And sticking all your money under the mattress is also not always the best approach either. Sure, you want to stick some money under there, but that's not always the right approach, because, again, you've got to worry about inflation. People never understand that. When I talk with them, I say, well, yeah, I get that. Inflation, what does that mean, really? Well, it's, let's face it, what did things cost 10 years ago? What did things cost 20 years ago? The same thing we're doing now, milk jug and things like that. So those are the kind of things you got to understand. Well, if you're not making any money on your money, that buying power is getting lower and lower every year. So you've got to be strategic about how you're doing things. And if you don't learn and get educated and learn from the professionals like ourselves when we do these classes to get the ideas of what you can be doing, then you just don't know. So real important to, be educated and do the right things.
So again, the website is retirementfocusacademy.com. It's a great resource for anyone that's nearing retirement or you're already in retirement. A great opportunity for you to kind of learn about things. And of course, this Tuesday, January 12th, there's the virtual meeting on retirement basics, kind of giving you a general understanding of some of the challenges maybe you might face in retirement, but things that you need to be aware of, like when Kevin was talking about some of the misconceptions, to try to free you up and get you thinking in the right direction for you and your situation. That is January 12th. You sign up right there on the website, retirementfocusacademy.com. And of course, next week, January 19th, will be the Inspiring Women on retirementfocusacademy.com. And again, the number, if you have questions, 843-790-9293, 843-790-9293. We're halfway through the program. We're going to talk about investing in retirement versus investing for retirement. What's the difference? Well, Kevin's going to clue us in right after this. Stay with us. This is Retirement Focus Academy, powered by Geiger Investments. And Kevin Geiger, we're back right after this.
You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Get the retirement planning information you need by joining Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments for the Retirement Focus Academy. What's the best way for you to take Social Security? When can you sign up for Medicare, and what does it actually cover? What and is there a way to lower your tax bill? These and much more will be discussed. To enroll in an upcoming virtual Retirement Focus Academy course, visit retirementfocusacademy.com or call 843-790-9293. Plan today so you can do the things you've dreamt about doing in retirement. Sign up for the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments at retirementfocusacademy.com or call 843-790-9293. Advisory services offered through Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC and Geiger Investments are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Our firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government.
From the creators of Medicare Made Simple, this is the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger.
Glad you're with us today on the Retirement Focus Academy program powered by Geiger Investments. You can go to the website geigerinvestments.com, but you can also obviously go to retirementfocusacademy.com. This is the non-for-profit that Kevin and the team have started, and it's really about education. And again, Tuesday, January 12th, so coming up, there's a virtual meeting, virtual chat about retirement basics. Your opportunity to learn some of the important topics and things you need to know about your upcoming retirement, for example. So it's on retirement basics. And then, of course, next Tuesday, January 19th, the virtual chat on the retirementfocusacademy.com website will be inspiring women. You know, because the numbers are pretty staggering when you think about it, that 80% of men die married, 80% of women die widowed, divorced, or single. So that's going to be a really important one. January 19th on retirementfocusacademy.com, inspiring women. Now, during the break, Kevin, you were talking about investing in retirement versus investing for retirement. Where are you headed here? Explain that.
Right? People are like, what is he talking about here, right? So there's a couple things that I think that's real important for people to understand, right? You know, you got to be investing in your retirement, not for retirement, right? So people think, I'm just putting money in my account and then I'm growing that money for my retirement, and that's as far as they go. They go, that was my plan, right? That's the whole point. We got to save our nest egg. We're going to save $1 million. We're going to save $500,000 for my retirement. Whatever the case, they have a number in place, and that's what they run with. But the fact of the matter is once you get to retirement, and I always like to call this the Mount Everest story. I don't know if, Mark, you've ever heard this one. It's kind of popular in the industry, but everyone, that decides they want to climb Mount Everest. I'm not one of them. I think I probably wouldn't survive it. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of people that have done this, and so they prep and they plan, they get their body in shape for over a year and doing everything they want to do to, get to the top of that mountain. But do you know where most accidents typically happen during that climb up to Mount Everest?
That'd be on the way down, which is why you need a Sherpa to guide you up to that mountain.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And that's exactly right. So all the accidents happen on the way down. Well, it's the same thing with retirement. Most people that we sit down with, their plan goes as far as, I've saved my nest egg. I've made it. I've gotten to my number. This is it. And I go, what's your plan now? I don't know. I'm lost. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I just draw it down, right? And they go, that's part of it, because that all works fine until you have a market crash and you have all your money, all your eggs in one basket, and it just doesn't work, right? And same thing with, what they call the reverse dollar cost averaging, right? So I'm going to draw it down. I'm going to first draw out the money I first put in it, and then I'll get to my money I put in the beginning out last. Well, that's not always the right approach either, because now you're basically putting yourself in a tax situation where you're going to end up paying way more taxes later on, because the money you're pulling out later were bought at cheaper shares, which means you have more tax liability later. And let's just face it, if taxes go up down the road 5, 10, 15 years from now, that's going to really bite you in the butt. So you got to be conscious of that stuff, right? And then when you talk about, times as far as making up your losses, right? If you were still working or saving and you weren't drawing your money down, in 2020, you walk through that little bubble of the market going down in the springtime and kind of roared back towards the end of the year, and everything looked great and you're in the positive. But if you were drawing down your account during that time, which I'm sure many of you are that are listening, you probably didn't see your account get as high as it could have, and that's because you're drawing the account down to a lower dollar amount, yet you're still pulling the same dollars out of it, and you don't get a chance to catch back up. So, we always call that, and we run these kind of what's called sequence of returns for people. We just say, hey, let's just take these exact returns for each year, and then we're just going to just mix these up. And we're going to see how it's all going to play out, because we don't know what the future brings. And people are always blown away by, if I'm drawing out $50,000 a year out of my retirement fund, if I mix these numbers up and just kind of randomly mix it up, I think they're kind of blown away. Sometimes they're 10 years, 15 years down the road, they're way ahead of the game, and sometimes they're way lower than they thought they would be. So these are the kind of things that you got to understand. And I think the last piece to the puzzle is we become the do-it-yourselfer generation in retirement, and it's just a product of the fact that pensions have gone away, and people have been investing into 401k types of accounts, and they've done, again, so well over the last 10 or 12 years, and even beyond that, before '08, that they feel like they got this. They know what they're doing, and they read the internet, and everything is true on the internet, Mark, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Everything you read on there.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and I tell people, I go, you can't trust everything you read on the internet, and if you're listening to some person that's giving you an idea on how you can draw your money down and make it last on the internet and kind of following that approach, is probably not the smart thing to do, because all it takes is one mistake in retirement that will destroy your retirement going forward. Because let's face it, your income plan might be fine, but what have you figured out to cover, long-term care needs? What have you done, things like that? And one of the biggest things I constantly see, and it breaks my heart every time, is no one ever has a plan in place if there's a long-term care scenario that runs into place, right? And what ends up happening, one spouse ends up going through a long-term care scenario, they exhaust their assets, that person eventually, health doesn't do so well, they pass away. The other person, the other spouse, is now left with nothing, and in most cases they end up having to move in with their kids because of that scenario, because they just never put that as a priority to make sure they have some type of plan in place, when it comes to long-term care. So that's a big piece of the puzzle that people have to start really putting first. Health is the number one thing that'll devastate your retirement account. So if you're not doing something to kind of protect that nest egg in that sense, you're not doing the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about, I think when we did this, I think I talked about this maybe a few weeks ago or so on the program about the brothers Bob and Bill. So Bob retired in 1990. He had $500,000. He needed $30,000 a year. So that decade, if you remember, 1990 to 1999 was a great decade on the market. Everything just was shooting up. The story was that a chimpanzee could take a dart, throw it, and hit a stock, and he was going to win. And so Bob retires with $500,000, takes $30,000 out a year, which would be $300,000 over that decade. But at the end of 1999, Bob now has $1.2 million. So his younger brother Bill goes, hey, that was a great idea, Bob. I've got $500,000. I'm going to do the same thing. So this is now 2000 to 2009, and Bill takes out $30,000 a year, $300,000 of his $500,000. Bob's kept growing during his decade of the 90s. Bill's did not, right? Dot-com bubble bursting, 9/11, the 2008 banking and housing financial crisis. The challenge is now Bill, after 2009, has $136,000. That's not the $1.2 million that his brother had after the first decade. So timing, if you just have one tool in your toolbox, you can have some challenges. That's why Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments at Retirement Focus Academy are putting on a virtual chat with you on the retirementfocusacademy.com website, Tuesday, January 12th, on retirement basics. So you can understand some of these concepts that Kevin talks about on the radio program every single week. Great opportunity for you. There's no cost. retirementfocusacademy.com to sign up for the January 12th virtual chat on retirement basics. If you want to call, you have questions, 843-790-9293. 843-790-9293. I'm Mark Elliott, Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments, of course, Retirement Focus Academy, and of course, even Carolina Medicare. You can go to carolinamedicare.com because you still have, a couple months to make some decisions if you need to change something there. But Kevin, when you think about retirement, certainly my grandparents retired with pensions, Social Security, high interest rates at the bank. You go back to 1980, I think, you could get, 10, 12% on a CD at the bank. Well, 30 years ago, Back in 1990, a CD at the bank, the interest rate was around 8%. We're nowhere near that, so it's a little different time to retire. What do you think has changed from, say, 1990 to 2021 as far as retirement is concerned? And that would be one area, certainly the interest rates.
Yeah, well, interest rates is the biggest piece, right? I think we've gotten so accustomed to these low interest rates, and it's fine if you're not in retirement, but if you're in retirement, that's supposed to be your safe haven. That's, put my money in a CD and I'm getting 8-10%. Fantastic, you're making money, right? The whole idea of just being safe and making money, there's no options for that, as far as the normal investing world. You can't put money in bonds because the bond rates are so low that when they do go up, you're going to lose a ton of money, so that's a very risky investment. So yeah, interest rates are a big piece of the puzzle. Lack of pensions. Pensions are disappearing. I think the number now is less than 12% of companies and stuff like that have pensions still, and those are dropping daily. I think you're going to see a lot more drop off from last year, just because companies can't afford these things anymore because longevity. People are living longer, right? So that's a huge piece of the puzzle why a lot of these pensions have disappeared. They can't afford to pay people a pension for 20, 30 years versus back in, our parents' days when life expectancy was only like 10 or 15 years after retirement. So it was easy for a company to kind of afford that kind of stuff. But then, a lot of the issues we have now, what I always say is we've got 24/7 news, whether it's on TV, on your phone, you name it. And I think it's clouded a lot of people's judgment. It's created, the media's been very good at pushing fear out. Fear sells, right? And that's the biggest piece that I warn people about. They run for the hills because the media loves to put a lot of bad information out there, and they're never good about putting good information, as so I always feel. And so we've been clouded by the news. We don't know how to, what's up, what's down, how to go forward in this world, especially in retirement for investing and things like that. There's just too much noise out there, right? There's absolutely too much noise on the internet. And let's face it, everyone's always sending me articles left and right, like, oh, what do you think? This is scary. This is going to be a financial disaster. And I'm like, you're not getting all the information, you're not getting the right facts and things like that. So you've got to be conscious of that stuff. And then, of course, products these days, versus 30 years ago. I mean, I knew 30 years ago you had mutual funds and things of that kind of sort, and then you had bonds, and then annuities started kind of really becoming popular with just fixed annuities because fixed annuities were paying 10-12%, which was fantastic back then, right? So those are good days, and that's where it's at. But now you've got so many investment options out there that it's really gotten confusing. But, on the plus side, I think the financial technology has actually gotten better, which has made, investing a little easier, a lot more choices these days. A reduction of costs has been a good thing. Roth options, as far as a Roth IRA, Roths are a great option because of the fact that down the road, if taxes do go up, now you have a tax-free withdrawal scenario that could really protect you with the higher tax rates down the road and stuff like that. So definitely better strategies out there, but there are other problems that we do have, and so you've got to weigh these things out, and you've got to make the right decisions that can be a best fit for you for retirement. I think that's the number one key to it all.
So here again, you can go to retirementfocusacademy.com. There's no cost to you whatsoever. This is a non-for-profit group that Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments have created, and it's just a website where you can go learn about things. Well, this Tuesday, the virtual chat is about retirement basics. Again, there's no cost for you to attend. You just set up your computer, you sign in, and you're good to go. retirementfocusacademy.com. Learn about retirement basics from the team at Geiger Investments. Great opportunity for you. Again, that's retirementfocusacademy.com. You want to call to make sure you're doing everything right. Hey, it's 843-790-9293, 843-790-9293. Kevin, good luck with that virtual chat on Retirement Basics Tuesday. Have a great week. We'll do this again next week.
All right, take care, Mark, and take care, y'all.
Advisory services offered through Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, and Geiger Investments are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Blackridge Asset Management LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Blackridge Asset Management LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.